Okay, for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Good afternoon. I want to welcome our guests. This is an important election coming up for Bend, and we want all of our neighbors to be informed voters. So the purpose of this forum is to inform. It is nonpartisan. We do not do candidate endorsements, and it is not a debate. The purpose is just to educate voters. We will be taking questions on the Q&A for those of you who were not able to submit questions in advance. We did get a lot of questions from registrations and also from our issues that our neighborhood association has been dealing with. So we will be asking questions. Candidates will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. Then we'll have questions and they'll have 2 minutes to answer the questions that are posed to them. And then once we are finished with our questions, candidates will have 1 minute to close. And at this point, we are going to be playing a video to introduce you to Mountain View Neighborhood Association. By the way, I don't think I said this, but I'm Beth Hoover. I'm the chair of Mountain View.
Mountain View is the largest and most dynamic of the 13 neighborhoods in Bend. Mountain View is bordered by Eagle Road to the east, Butler Market Road to the north, Highway 20 to the south, and various roads along the west end. Mountain View is home to Worthy Brewing, including the Worthy Brewing Observatory. Mountain View also has the largest shopping district, the Forum, which has Costco, Whole Foods, Safeway, Old Navy, Big Lots, and a host of other local stores. With over a dozen restaurant options in the neighborhood, residents are spoiled for choice for great food. Mountain View also has great places to get together with friends and family, including 2 open-air tap houses, Rivers Place and On Tap. Both open-air tap houses have several food carts that park there year-round. These food cart lots and open-air tap houses provide an excellent opportunity to meet other members of the community. Mountain View also has amazing views of Pilot Butte, especially during 4th of July during the fireworks festival. Due to the presence of St. Charles, the largest hospital in Eastern Oregon, we have the highest concentration of elderly homes, senior care living facilities, and palliative care homes in all of Bend. We have some of the best public transportation lines in the entire city. It's served by 3 different bus lines, all of which go to Hawthorne Station. 2 schools are located within the neighborhood boundaries, Ensworth Elementary School and Mountain View High School. Some of the best parks in Bend are located in Mountain View, including Al Moody Park, Providence Park, Eagle Park, and Mountain View Park. Each neighborhood in Bend has a neighborhood association that works for the interests of its residents. The Mountain View Neighborhood Association is governed by a board of 7 members. Board members are elected annually at a large meeting open to all members of Mountain View Neighborhood Association. The neighborhood board meets once a month to discuss important neighborhood and community issues. Mountain View Neighborhood Association has its residents' interests at heart. We do everything from lobby for transportation safety initiatives, to tenant advocacy, to running campaigns for slow down signs and illegal fireworks signs that keep our neighborhood safe. MVNA hosts its own website, as well as a Facebook page, and has an active presence on Nextdoor to keep all of our neighborhood citizens informed.
We are
MVNA.
Make your voice heard. Come be part of MVNA.
Okay, so thanks to Jason Barber, one of our board members, for that video. This is Beth Hoover again. I want to welcome and thank all of our candidates who are here with us this afternoon. We so much appreciate your spending your time with us to inform us. And we're going to start with 2-minute introductions. I know the slide said 3, but we're going to keep you to 2. And we will start with position number 1, Melanie first and then Justin.
Thanks, Beth. Hi, I'm Melanie Keebler and I'm running for Bend City Council position 1. I'm running because I want to bring my perspective as a career public servant to our council. And I want to bring bold, positive leadership for the challenging times ahead. I grew up here in Bend. I graduated from Bend High, went to college in Michigan, and came back to Oregon for law school. I started working for the public as a prosecutor, first on the coast and then in the Valley. And then I became a victims' rights attorney for the nonprofit Oregon Crime Victims Law Center. We know that we're going to have to help our residents and our businesses recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. But that doesn't mean that the other issues we're facing as a city have gone away. I want to lead on making our transportation system safe and connected, making Bend more affordable by providing housing and childcare options, and making Bend a leader in the fight against climate change while growing our own local green economy. I want to make sure that as our city changes and grows, everyone here shares in the prosperity of that growth. Bend should be a welcoming place for all of us. I live in the Old Farm District Neighborhood Association, and I've attended board meetings and general meetings. I think the neighborhood associations are vital to helping make sure there's community input into city decision making. I'm happy to talk about how my campaign is financed. I'm proud to have over 160 individual donors, and I've received payments from 2 PACs. Those are local unions, the construction laborers and steam fitters and plumbers, and they've each donated $1,000 to my campaign. I'm endorsed by the Oregon League of Conservation Voters, the Sierra Club, the Oregon Working Families Party, and the Central Oregon Labor Chapter. I'm excited to be running a people-powered campaign, and I'm ready to get to work for all of Bend. Thanks.
Thank you, Melanie. And Justin?
Great, thank you. Good evening. I want to thank the Mountain View Neighborhood Association for hosting this forum. I look forward to this opportunity to let everyone know more about me and why I'm running for re-election to the Bend City Council. I'm a native Oregonian, a small business owner, and managing principal real estate broker. I have lived in Bend for the last 20 years with my wife, Carrie. We have 2 amazing kids, 11 and 14, and live in Southeast Bend. 4 years ago, I ran for council to keep the city focused on its core services and Bend's lack of affordability, specifically in housing. Because I don't want my kids or anyone else to face a similar decision as my wife did when she had to leave Bend in the late 80s after high school. Now, talking about some of the questions that were specifically asked that we answer. As I live in the Larkspur Neighborhood Association. I regularly attend their board meetings. When I was a renter in the Old Farm District Neighborhood Association, I served on the board and was a land use chair. Neighborhood associations have a very important role in providing feedback to the council and to help the city communicate out to all areas of the city. That's why I played a role in getting the Neighborhood Leadership Alliance started, because I wanted to codify in code that neighborhoods have a seat at the table. Because when I came on council, the council previous had kind of disengaged from neighborhoods, and I thought that that wasn't the right thing to do, and we needed to be communicating and engaging our neighborhood associations. My number one priority, if elected to council, is the economic recovery from the COVID-19. It's clearly where we've lost businesses. We're probably going to continue to lose businesses, but the city needs to make sure that it's not standing in the way of those businesses and how they need to operate to keep people safe, and then also to have a viable business. As far as organizations or PACs, I'm supported by the Central Oregon Association of Realtors. They have over 2,500 members with an average donation of $50. The Central Oregon Small Business PAC and the Bend Chamber PAC. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Justin. We're going to go to the candidates for position number 2. We'll start with Anthony and then August.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Anthony Broadman. I'm running for Bend City Council position 2 because I love Bend and I want to serve this community the same way I've served the public my whole career. As an attorney, I serve federally recognized Indian tribes throughout the West, as well as businesses here in Bend. The City Council needs to be a good steward as our city grows, and we need to put families and businesses and neighborhoods in a position to succeed. I'll work to do that. I'll lead on ensuring that we have a safe, connected transportation system east to west. I'll work to make sure that affordable housing is available to people who actually work in Bend. And I'll make sure that the city is a partner to workers and small businesses, much like I was able to do leading the initiative to open more streets for businesses downtown. My wife is Dr. Kate Broadman. She's a pediatrician at Summit BMC. We've raised our 3 daughters here in Bend. We live in the Summit West neighborhood. And while I don't regularly attend our neighborhood association meetings, I do regularly attend the city council meetings. I've seen your hard work as a neighborhood association, and I've seen the hard work of all of the neighborhood associations and how important it is for the council to listen. My priorities are making sure that we plan for growth, protect what makes our city exceptional, not just now, not just for my 3 daughters, but for generations to come. We need to fix our transportation system, make sure that people who work in Bend can afford to live here, and be a good partner to small businesses and workers. The biggest contributor to my campaign is you. I've received over 200 individual donations in the form of small donations from folks in Bend. I've received contributions from the Association of Realtors, the Bend Chamber of Commerce. I've also, I think I'm the only candidate in any of the races who's received the support of the Bend firefighters, which I'm really honored by. I've received the support of the Oregon League of Conservation Voters and the Sierra Club, along with every major local labor organization. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to speak with all of you and more importantly, hear your concerns. That's the job of council, to listen to you, to act. Again, it's Anthony Broadman. I'm running for position 2 and I would be honored to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. And now we'll go to August.
Is my mic working? It's all good? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Sweet. Hi, I'm August Paul Johnson. I'm 18 years old and I'm a college student at OSU Cascades. This is my first freshman year. I've lived in Bend for 2 years now, and already I can see sort of a vision created in my mind of what I want to do for the future of Bend. I don't live on the east side. I actually live on the river west side of Bend, so I can't say or promise that I know anything about what east side people know or want. But what I can say is that I, as a young person, understand how young people feel, think, and what we really want to do in Bend. The things that I want to do if elected for city council is really approach Bend with a viewpoint that everyone who lives in Bend wants to strive and prosper in Bend. And to do that, you have to have good jobs, a good household to live into or move into, and a good community for all. So what I want to do for Bend is first expand Bend's urban growth boundary to the east. to provide for more communities and more housing, so to lower the housing prices in Bend and actually build more local businesses as well. Businesses that will provide jobs for more people moving to Bend, or for people looking for just a better job in general. As a young person, I would love to create a better environment for students alike, to where instead of going to the bar to hang out, you might want to go and hang out at another bowling alley, or maybe another mini golf course. Something for families and kids like myself to find entertainment in. A big thing for myself would be to get more soccer fields at parks, stuff like that. I hope that the people watching will see and understand that Anthony and I have different viewpoints, and that in the future, when they make their decision, they will find the right one. Thank you.
Thank you, August. Now we're going to go to position 3, and I do not see Rondo here. So we will start with Megan and then Chris.
All right, hi, I'm Megan Perkins, and I am running for Bend City Council position 3. And I'm running because I love this city and I want its growth and prosperity to be shared by all. I'm a 5th generation Oregonian that has lived all over the country, and it was a dream come true when I finally moved to Bend. I'm a mom of 3, and we wanted to raise our children here and be closer to family. And one of the things that I realized when I moved to Bend was that my experience here was very different than that of my 2 Black children. This concern for them led me to co-found a group called Embrace Bend, which is now a nonprofit working to make Bend a more equitable and inclusive place for everyone. I believe that commitment to community is everything. I am a member of my neighborhood association board. I have also been with Moms Demand Action as a Girl Scout leader for my daughter's troop, and on the site council for my children's school. I'm running to fight for 2 main priorities. One of them is economic equity in our city. Bend can become a livable and affordable community for everyone, but it's going to take some work. I will make housing a key priority on council. We simply need more types of housing for more people. I will support expanded transportation options that improve connections around the city and make Bend friendlier for bikers and pedestrians. And I will work to improve childcare options for our 0 to 5 population. My second priority is to work for a Bend where everyone can benefit from safe, complete neighborhoods, access to nature and recreation, and a strong economy, regardless of race, sexual orientation, neighborhood, income, or mobility. I will fight for a city that is accessible to its residents and will work to address barriers to civic participation. On City Council, I will represent our shared values. So far, I have only received money from 1 PAC, and that is the Laborers International Union. The rest of the money that I have raised has been from the people. I believe strongly in serving my community, which is the primary role of our City Council. I've been showing up for this town for the moment I arrived, and I will show up for you as City Councilor. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Chris, we'll go with you next.
Great. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, MVNA, for the opportunity to be here and for spending your evening with us. You know, when I came on, I was appointed to council, and the reason I wanted to serve on council was because I had this vision for Bend, and it's really to maintain our caring and tolerant community that is supported by a strong civic volunteer base that provides a tapestry of skills which enhance the quality of life in Bend. Bend is an incredible city with incredible people, with so many that volunteer their time day in and day out. My focus as counselor going forward, areas where I want to continue working to serve Bend, is in the area of economic recovery. COVID-19 has caused harm to Bend's local businesses and employees. And I've worked with the Bend Business Relief Fund to provide 0% interest loans to local businesses, working with the city to create flexible payment plans and not assessing late fees on city customers. And I will continue using my business background, helping Bend's local economy recover and create jobs. My wife and I have lived here for 15 years. We've raised our daughter here, who's now a junior at Bend High. And we look forward to continuing to grow and make Bend a very prosperous place for many more to come and live. And with that involves transportation, because we need to ensure that our transportation infrastructure keeps up with our population growth. Affordable housing. Housing supply shortages have caused home and rent prices to soar in Bend and putting financial strains on working families, seniors, and young Bend residents. It is my goal to maintain the livability like I have in working with the neighborhood associations. I'm part of the Southwest Bend Neighborhood Association. I serve on Team Green on cleanup. I serve on the Old Bend Neighborhood Association, putting forth the new pilot parking program and working on Neighborhood Safe Streets program. I look forward to continuing to serve, and I look forward to your continued support and being more involved as you have been, so we can continue to keep our neighborhoods livable, safe, and enjoyable for many here to come.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, we will go to position number 4 now. And we'll start with Michael, then Rita, then Anand.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Mountain View Neighborhood Association, and thank all the candidates for joining us here tonight. My name is Michael Hughes. I'm a council candidate for Bend City Council position 4. I'm an attorney here in town. I'm also a farmer. I live here in Southeast Bend with my wife, my 13-year-old son, our dog Ella. And, you know, over the years, I've done a lot of work for people, whether it be individuals or small business owners or property owners, and work and fought for them to try to be able to exercise their rights, whether it be property rights or whether it be business owners trying to figure out really difficult regulations so that they can operate their business. So I bring a lot of common sense experience in addition to extensive legal experience. And, you know, I'm running for this position because I believe in Bend. I believe Bend is a great city today. I believe we're at a crossroads where we're going to become a bigger city. And in order to be as great tomorrow as we are today, we're going to need some leadership that's willing to make some tough decisions and that's willing to use some common sense so that when we do expand as a city, we do so and maintain the current livability we have. Now, I'm a member of the Southeast. We live in the Southeast neighborhood, Southeast Bend Neighborhood Association. And I think it's good that we're having this discussion tonight because neighborhood associations are important. And this particular neighborhood association covers a pretty diverse group of residential areas, everything from Mountain High to the Pines to the Bridges to some of the newer developments and then some of the older neighborhoods that exist. And these neighborhood associations are important so that they can bring the problems to the city council. So it's important that the city council also listens to the neighborhood associations because they're going to be aware of what the current problems are. And our number one priority is recovering from the economic problems that the pandemic has caused us. And that's what I would like to focus on if I'm elected to the city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. We'll go now to Rita.
Hi, my name's Rita Schenkelberg and my pronouns are she, her, and they, them, and I'm running for Bend City Council position 4. I initially began this journey of running for Bend City Council as I began to learn about local government. I learned how much Bend City Council has power over whether people are getting their basic needs met or not, whether the roads are safe, and whether we can kind of work cohesively as a city. As a queer person of color, I haven't seen a whole lot of leaders that look like me within any position of power. And so when I decided to run, I knew that it was going to be a lot of work. And I know you all are out there. Thank you for all of the people who have supported me. You all have been instrumental to this entire process. I represent a community that has had almost no representation, especially in the city of Bend. And I know that is not only game-changing for myself, but also for so much of our community here. Another reason why I'm running for Bend City Council is as a queer person of color, I have a pretty unique lived experience here. Bend has been pretty a lack of diversity, and a lot of the feedback that I've received from the voters is that there has been diversity here for a really long time, and they just haven't had a voice and they haven't been brought to the forefront. So it's incredibly important that I'm elected here for position 4. Where I live right now is the Orchard District. They're in Midtown. It's such a gorgeous, gorgeous neighborhood. And my priority is really bringing diverse voices to Bend City Council, making sure that they're heard, and making sure there are actions that follow those words and that emotional labor that they put in. Some of my donors are over 200 of some of the individuals watching right now. Thank you all for your support. And I did receive a donation from Liuna PAC. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Rita. Okay, now we will go to Anon. Anon, can you?
I was muted. I apologize. My name is Anon Bubba Walters. You can call me Bubba. It's much easier. And I feel grossly underprepared after listening to all the other candidates speak. They are very eloquent and had a very long list of things that they want to accomplish. And I give them kudos for that. I'm just a regular Bendonite. I live here. I work here. I wanted to run for Bend City Council to represent the people that actually live and work in this town, that aren't lawyers, doctors, or living on the West Hills, or moved here from California, or whatever, you know, other place you came here before Bend. I have lived in Bend on and off since the 80s. I love the city. I think the city is fantastic. I could choose to live anywhere in the world, but this is where I am. I want to be on the city council to make my voice heard, as well as all the voices that are out there building the big houses, putting together all the projects, and just living in this beautiful community. I appreciate all of the support and all my friends and everybody else on this journey. I have not been sponsored by any PAC, political action committees. I've had a few of my friends and family donate small amounts to my campaign. Other than that, I'm doing this all on my own. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here tonight, and I hope all of you have a great evening, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
And then thank you. And at this point, we're going to go into our question and answer portion of tonight's forum. I'm going to remind everybody 2 minutes for responses, and I will turn it over to Steve Pine and Carol Elwood from our board. They're going to be asking the questions. So Steve, I think you will probably start.
And I believe I'm unmuted. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, you can hear me. Good. Well, I want to echo Beth's sentiments and thank everyone for being here. This is a very important opportunity for everyone. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. I am a member of the board. I'm the treasurer of the board. I've been with the board for about a year and in Bend for a couple of years. So here we go. The first question is under the topic of marginalized voices. You can see the question there. It's regarding the history of tension. And this question is going to go for position 3. I don't believe that Rondo is on, so we'll go in the order of Megan and then Chris in the answers. So the question is regarding the history of tension between East and West Bend, specifically in representation at the city. How will you address the inequity of East Side representation on city committees and commissions? Megan?
All right, I think I'm unmuted and camera's on. I think this is a really great question. And I think that, you know, this is a huge priority for my campaign. And that is that everybody needs a voice in Bend. And what we've seen in the past is a very specific type of person with a very specific type of income level with a very living in a very specific type of the part of the city with a very specific color skin has been represented on committees in all forms of civic participation. And I want to open that up so that we can all be a part of decision making in this city. I think that the committee structure is a great place to start because that is a real good entry point for a lot of people, and they have a lot of power over recommending policies and decisions for our city council. So I would recommend that our committee structure, that when you're applying for committees, first of all, that the city page websites are easy to understand, and that we take away any form of barriers in terms of specific resumes that you need to have, specific experience, and really focus more on learned experience, lived experience, and getting a broad representation of all types of people on these committees so that we can actually have a more equitable outcome for our city policies.
Okay, thank you then, Megan. At this point, we'll go to Chris.
Yeah, thank you very much, Steve. This is an area that, as I mentioned in my opening, city of Bend is growing at a rapid pace, and I think that the city has kind of grew out of touch with that rapid growth and the population and the diversity of the population. And in witnessing that in my last 2 years of being on council, I did see representation not being represented, if you will. And I think ways that we can do that as a city and as a council is to begin being more active in our neighborhood associations. I take credit with the mayor and the city manager in joining them in our COVID crisis response town halls that we took to all the neighborhood associations. We went beyond outside of the dais and brought the information to the cities. And what I'd like to do is see a greater model of that so that we are more approachable to those on the east side in giving them more education and resources on how to be more engaged, helping them understand our website and making sure our website is bilingual and suitable for many in the entire city of Bend. I think that there are great opportunities to be engaged in a committee, and those are ways that we need to continue to educate and bring people forth and make it not a scary situation, that it is something that, to come and learn and be educated and be well read with the opportunity for growth. And then eventually, as we see on the candidate level, taking a part in city, local government. But I think we need to do a better part of really getting out behind the dais and having city councilors continually to be more active in their neighborhood associations, and then holding kind of a forum, if you will, of education specifically about city education and committees that are looking for new applicants.
Thank you, Chris. So now we're going to move on, and Carol will begin the questioning.
Thank you. This question is still in the category of marginalized voices, and this will go for position 1. I'm going to start asking Justin this question, and then Melanie can answer. The question is, do you support the city's creation of Human Rights and Equity Commission? If so, how will you ensure that this commission has oversight powers on equity issues for the city? And take it away, Justin.
Great. Thank you, Carol. No, I think it's a good question. The Human Rights and Equity Commission will come before the council for a vote actually in October to actually pass an ordinance to form the commission. I will be supporting that with a vote in October. One of the things I was wanting to do, and I think we will be able to do, is actually expand that to also represent more people, not through geographic areas, making sure that we're being more representative of geography, and then also socioeconomic issues. We don't hear a lot from people that are just working, raising families, just living in Bend. We just don't hear from kind of those people in the lower to moderate income brackets. And we need to do more of that. We need to do more outreach. We need to hear from those people more. And honestly, I think, it's very important to put this on par with all of our other committees, and having our policies go in front of the Human Rights Commission to really understand what some of the unintended consequences are of the policies that we're looking at. And I think it's very important to have that feedback, just as we would from the Economic Development, from BDAB, or from the Neighborhood Leadership Alliance or the Affordable Housing Committee. We need to raise up those voices and put them on an equal level with all our other committees.
Thank you, Justin. And Melanie, can you address the same question?
Yes, thank you. So I fully support the city's Human Rights and Equity Commission. I was watching along on the Diversity and Equity and Inclusion Task Force, which was made up of members of our community, that was put together to kind of form these recommendations to council and really tell council what our communities of color need in this town in the form of a commission or a committee. And I support the process that they went through as I observed part of it, and I support the final product. I will note from watching those meetings that socioeconomic status is included as one of the categories that they think is important, and I agree, to make sure that people of all economic statuses have access to our government, as well as people who've been historically marginalized, like our Black, Indigenous, and communities of color. So I think what I would like to see moving forward for the council is to move forward with this proposal in the most robust form possible, to make sure we're appointing good community members who are dedicated and ready to spend the time on this committee, and that we're supporting them by providing financial stipends, childcare, and reducing other barriers to make sure that they are able to do this good work for our city. I'd like to see the HREC potentially involved in goal setting or other major council decisions to help hold us accountable to those equity goals that we want to be setting every 2 years. And I would like to see also the HREC have some ability to provide some level of restorative justice to the community. That was one of the aspects that the members of the task force had heard and recommended be a part of this commission, so that people who experience injustice or prejudice in our community have another resource to help them find the appropriate place to take those complaints, or to receive a form of mediated restorative justice right here in our city to help them heal and move forward, and to help the people who are accountable for those injustices or those prejudices learn and hopefully do better in the future. So I'm fully in support of this commission and would not have voted no, as my opponent did, on moving it forward to council. Thanks.
Okay, I'll take it from here then. This is Steve, and this one is going to be for position 4. We'll start with Michael and go to Rita and then Anand or Bubba. The question 4 question 4 is not on the screen yet. Question 4, here we go. Why do you support Bend becoming a sanctuary city? Why or why not? So, Michael?
Well, as a lawyer, I'd have to know what you meant by the legal definition of sanctuary city before I could actually answer that question. But I mean, I do support the current stance of the Bend Police Department. I believe the Bend City Council in that we aren't utilizing local funds to enforce federal immigration laws. So I think that's a reasonable position. I think the term sanctuary city is a loaded term a little bit because it's kind of thrown out there without looking at some of the legal implications that are behind both at the extradition process and the fact that the state and many local jurisdictions have signed off onto an interstate compact and detainer act that requires certain obligations for the state and local officials, especially with regard to not only interstate detention and transportation for extradition, but also with certain immigration orders that come down from an immigration court. So I think it's one of those issues that before I would give any sort of answer, I would need to see a pretty strong legal definition, because I've seen different people's different ideas of what a sanctuary city is or isn't. But I do support the current position of the Bend City Council and the Bend Police Department with regard to utilizing local funds for enforcement of immigration laws.
All right, thank you. So we'll, the same question, please, for Rita.
Thank you for this question. Yes, I do support Bend becoming a sanctuary city. A sanctuary city would support all of the individuals that live here in Bend, for all of the humans that were who were there in front of the ICE buses, what was that, a month and a half ago, and for all of the humans directly affected, and for the humans that don't feel comfortable leaving their homes because of the federal choices that are happening right now. That is unacceptable. You all live here in Bend. And the reality is Bend can support all of the individuals that live here if they choose to be a sanctuary city. And we can continue to call in for public comment, and we continue to have conversations with our city councilors, but the reality is that Bend's leadership needs to take a stand on this. So we can talk about terms, and we can talk about what will happen or what won't happen if we are or aren't a sanctuary city, but us being a sanctuary city shows that we think that all of the humans that live here in Bend deserve to live here in Bend. And they do. They already live here. Some of them have lived here longer than me, and that's how we can show our support for the entire community. I think that, of course, there are limits to what a sanctuary city can or can't do, and those limits can be a conversation after we're a sanctuary city, after we have those conversations, and after Bend City Council takes a strong stance on supporting all of the community members that live here.
Thank you, Rita. Yeah, Bubba, the same question goes to you. And Carol, yes, we are out of order.
So I'm not a lawyer, so the verbiage doesn't bother me so much. I would disagree with Rita in the fact that I think we should have the conversation first and then decide based on the definitions of what that sanctuary city can or cannot do, decide whether we should be a sanctuary city or not. It's a law, whether you agree with it or not, and laws are broken, there has to be some consequence. We are a country built on law. So we need to have those conversations, come to those agreements, and then make the decision based on facts and knowledge and not emotion and empathy. I fully agree that some of these people have lived here longer than even I have, and there are legal ways for them to go about becoming citizens or members of our community where they don't have to fear going outside. I think those ways should be opened up. Instead of being 1-lane roads, should be 10-lane highways, but that's a whole nother conversation. So as far as becoming a sanctuary city is concerned, I think that's a conversation that needs to be had before a decision is made.
Thanks, Bubba. And now we'll go back to question 3, Carol.
Yeah, thanks. This will be the last question in the category of marginalized voices and for position 4. So I'm going to ask Michael, because we went out of order, I'm a little confused. Position 2 will answer this question. So Anthony first, and then August. The question is, the recent search and hiring process for the new Bend police chief received criticisms from some residents. How would you improve the city's hiring process to ensure more diverse candidates for future city positions? Thank
you, Carol. It's a great question. I mean, this was the perfect storm of COVID and timing, and of course, the 2020 civil rights movement. I would say I don't think it's fair for staff to have put all of the political decisions on their shoulders. I think, one, we need to involve more diverse viewpoints in attracting good candidates for every job in Bend. not just police chief. And I would also say that I think when there was, I'll call it political consternation regarding the hiring of the police chief, that, you know, city council could have been more involved in taking some of that pressure off of staff and explaining better why the decisions were made. I think at the end of the day, we want to rely on our city staff. They are professionals. But I also think that the city council needs to be setting the correct framework to attract as many diverse candidates for every position within the city, because I think that should be one of our goals.
Thank you, Anthony. And August, can you address the same question?
I sure can. Let me just look it over again. All right. So with the, I'm just going to be brash here. I don't like our police chief. He personally, for me, it's hard to accept someone who isn't local, who doesn't come from the same area that I've spent these 2 years here at. Someone who can't look at his employees and touch on them on a personal level. For me, my boss has been working at her job for many, many years. And for me to have a good understanding of what I need to do, have a good understanding of how I should talk or question and get help at my job, I need to personally understand who I work for. So for a chief of police to come from Portland and I guess take control of my Bend police is kind of a rash decision for me. I would love to see someone local, someone who understands their community, someone who can, I guess, look out to people walking on the road and understand that it is their job to protect those people because they live in the same spot that they're working. The whole issue on removing the thin blue line from the police cars really kind of hurts. My grandfather worked he actually was a police chief near Portland. I don't exactly know the fine details, but he's told me stories of his job there and what he had to go through. And if I talked to my grandfather about that, he would have punched the guy in the face. The blue line on the police cars is a representation of who the police are in our society. And I would just like to see a more local police that is level-headed with the people of Bend. Thank you.
Thanks, August and Paul. Steve, you can ask the next question.
Video's off. Oops.
Okay, we're going to move on to the topic of transportation. And this question we'll start with for position 3. And again, I don't believe Rondo is with us, so we'll start this time with Chris and then go to Megan. So the question is, MVNA residents expressed concern that widening of 27th Street may create a de facto bypass route from Highway 97 at Empire to 27th at Highway 20. Would you support constructing a bypass further east of the city? How else might you address this new traffic flow to reduce neighborhood impact?
Yeah, this has been a question that's come up, if I guess for over the last 6 months since ODOT was awarded and City of Bend awarded the infra grant for this bypass. I believe that having a bypass is important. We had felt that the 97 Parkway was going to alleviate a lot of the congestion. We're seeing now, after 20 years of the 97 Parkway being implemented, that we're almost up to 70,000 trips a day. And that's becoming almost a very unsafe situation. I believe that the bypass will help alleviate some of that stress and build a better, safer route from 97 to the 27th at Highway 20. Yeah, I believe that widening of the 27th Street, I'm not sure right now that's something that I can answer yes or no to. I think that there's still some modeling and some studying that needs to be done. We've got, a transportation bond that's coming on the November 3rd ballot that is going to do a number of things, and it's very balanced and has lots of things for everybody in the entire city. So I'm very excited about that being on the ballot on November 3rd for the voters to make that decision. My hopes are that it does pass. Would I support constructing a bypass further east of the city? Yes, I would. And I think it's, like I mentioned earlier, I think that the traffic flow is definitely something of concern and does need to be addressed, and that we need to look at how the transportation bond is going to support that as if the bypass was going to come in.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. And the same question then, Megan.
This is a really good question, and I think this is one of those questions where, I can say I personally don't know the answer to these questions, and the reason why I don't know the answer to these questions is because, I first of all don't live in areas that would be affected by this, and second of all, there is a lot of work that needs to be done and a lot of studies to go in that need to be done in order to answer these questions. I do get concerned about widening of roads because I feel like it would mean more traffic. Let me tell you about the process that I would go through to work on this on City Council. First of all, I would talk to the people in the neighborhood associations that are most directly affected by this. I would also go to the impacted neighborhoods. I would go to local businesses. And I would see their thoughts, see their concerns, and would work with the city staff on modeling and really getting to understand the issue better. Also, while I'm intrigued by the idea of bypass on sort of East Bypass, from a financial standpoint, these projects cost a lot of money. And we also don't want to contribute to, sprawl in our community even more. I worry that it would mean a lot of pass through for businesses that are, in the more core of our city. And so I think it's just it's experience that we would need to do more work on and really respect the process of the transportation system plan that we already have in place. This is the work of a lot of people from a lot of different areas of our community, and really prioritize those projects that they have put forth through a lot of compromise and it's just what's best for our city right now.
Thanks, Megan. Appreciate that. Carol, take it away.
Thanks, Steve. This question is still on transportation, and it's going to go to position 1. I'm going to ask Melanie to answer first, and then we'll go to Justin. Beyond the transportation bond that is going to voters, what will you do to make Bend safer for bikes and pedestrians? How would you improve pedestrian crossings, such as those at Butler Market, in light of the 1,000+ new units expected from the Petrosa Master Plan that will be east of Deschutes Market Road?
Thanks, Carol. So I know this question says beyond the transportation bond, but I actually want to start there because I think the transportation bond has the first step in some great investment in making our transportation system more safe for people that bike and people that walk, people that roll, and people that take transit. So I would take an eye to prioritizing projects out of that transportation bond that get our process going on building those key routes around town where we can make safer bike paths, safer sidewalks, safer bus stops for people. And I think that's something we need to invest in and we need to prioritize if the bond is approved. As far as pedestrian crossings, I think that almost all of our intersections in Bend need big improvements to feel really actually safe and actually be safe for pedestrians crossing them. And I know that there's notoriously hard and scary places to cross. There's confusing places to cross. And what we need is we need the infrastructure built into those intersections that helps make them safer. We need them to be designed in a way where it's clear pedestrians have a right of way. It's clear when they're going to be crossing, and we're not making, we're not doing slip lanes or other things that create more opportunities for tragedy to happen. As far as the Petrosa project, what I really like about that project is that they are attempting to make a more of a complete neighborhood. So there's space for a school to be built in there. There's a corner for commercial. There are single family homes and other multifamily homes all built into the same area. And what that means is that you can walk, bike, or roll down to the store to get your groceries. You could have your kid hopefully safely get to school on the paths that are in your neighborhood, and you don't need to rely on your car as much to get around. And if we reduce the volume of people that are driving out of the neighborhood because they have what they need right there, then we're hopefully not going to see as many cars coming through some of these intersections and causing safety issues for pedestrians. So I like the idea of having these complete neighborhoods that help people to use other modes of transportation and keep some of that congestion and that volume of cars out of our intersections.
Thank you, Melanie. And Justin, will you please answer the same question?
Yeah, thank you. I think the bond, if it does pass, there's about $50 million worth of multimodal type projects in there, in addition to a lot of the other projects that will incorporate some sort of multimodal piece into them, whether it's an intersection improvement or a corridor improvement. You end up with multimodal bike ped type improvements, but just standalone bike ped improvements are about $50 million in the transportation bond. So not only is it a good start, but it's far more investment than the city of Bend has ever had in bike ped. As far as Butler Market, my guess is that you're probably getting to, because that Petrosa master plan and what they're going to have, the commercial amenities that they do have planned for the neighborhood, there's going to be a lot of desire from adjacent neighborhoods. I think the one to the south across Butler Market, they're now all of a sudden going to have commercial amenities that they've never had. And that's kind of been a food desert out there. And so I think we do need to make sure that people can cross from that neighborhood into the Petrosa neighborhood to be able to get to those commercial amenities. And that definitely needs to be safe. Obviously, there's a roundabout going in, or roundabouts going in at Butler Market and Deschutes Market, and Butler Market and Eagle. And so those give pedestrians areas where they can cross safely. The other thing that we focused on during my time on council are these pedestrian safe crossings throughout the city, but particularly in the 3rd Street corridor where people are crossing anyway. And so we need to give them a good crossing place. I think of the one on South 3rd Street at where the Canal Trail comes across 3rd Street at, near Fred Meyer. And having those rapid beacons, flashing beacons that somebody can press, and actually have a pedestrian safe island in the median. So that way it makes it a lot easier. So you're just crossing 2 lanes of traffic instead of trying to get across 5.
Justin, and I forgot to mention that was an example of a question we have gathered from our attendees tonight. And Steve can go on to the next transportation question.
Okay, thanks, Carol. This will be for position 4. And we'll start in reverse order there. We'll start with Bubba and go to Rita and then Michael. So as you can see, the question is, Northeast Purcell Street has long been a serious concern due to speeding, cut-through traffic, and it dead ending in our neighborhood instead of serving as the collector street that it's supposed to be. How would you improve the traffic and safety on Northeast Purcell Street beyond simply completing the street?
Haven't driven that route quite a bit. There's some study and looking into options other than just finishing the street to make it more usable and more user-friendly. Right now, with that whole area being torn up for the roundabouts, Purcell is seeing a huge amount of traffic, and it's been challenging to get around in that end of town since they broke ground. Once the new roundabouts open up, I'd like to see what the traffic counts are then when you have Deschutes Market, Butler Market, Eagle, and 27th all back up and running at full speed. I would definitely support looking into any kind of alternatives for making Purcell more user-friendly, especially now that it's tied into those roundabouts, and make it a collector street so that we can cut down on some of 27th Street and even some of Butler Market. It's one of those issues that would take some study and looking into what is feasible, what's affordable, and what after this, if this traffic bond passes, how they approached it and are attempting to solve it already. But yeah, I would be all in support of making Purcell more usable. I drive it quite regularly. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bill. I appreciate it. Rita, the same question to you.
Thanks. As someone also who drives it a lot, I think that it's incredibly important that we support the transportation bond. There are projects within the transportation bond that will make that route definitely more navigationally friendly and more movable for all humans. And it really comes back to not only the people in the cars, but the people that are walking and biking. You know, when you're driving pretty quickly through a lot of those neighborhood areas, and I think a lot of humans that drive around that area know what I mean, it wouldn't be safe to walk or bike. It doesn't feel safe, even though it is within a neighborhood. And so looking at how do we get the connectivity on those streets with having the sidewalks connecting, we have established bike lanes, and really looking at those non-vehicle commuters as they're going towards the north and south parts of town. I think it's also an additional conversation about the types of ways that we can encourage people to drive the speed limit in those areas. So whether that's speed bumps or an increase in infrastructure, looking at signs or other pieces that make it safe for all of the humans that are commuting in those roads, whether they're driving, taking transit, walking, and or biking.
Okay, thanks, Rita. And the same question for you, Michael.
Thank you. Well, I'm very familiar with Northeast Purcell Street. I've driven that a lot. We used to live up in the northeast part of Bend before we moved to Southeast Bend. So I'm very familiar with that street. And, you know, essentially once you get south of Butler Market on Northeast Purcell there, the traffic sometimes goes incredibly fast for a residential neighborhood. So obviously I think traffic studies need to be done to see if the speed limit needs to be slowed down. And if not, they need to do more enforcement of the speed limit in that area. Because I've seen cars go through there at 40, 50 miles an hour. And I know the people that live on there can probably even tell worse nightmares. And, you know, but the key is the city's got to finish that. That's been unfinished for as long as I've lived here. And what happens is once you get off on the Northeast Holiday Avenue there's not a lot of sidewalks in that area as well, because some of those are older streets. So they clearly need to finish up Northeast Purcell, connect it to Northeast Purcell. That's going to connect it to Northeast Courtney Drive, which is going to help it feed into Northeast 27th Street. Now, obviously, we've got traffic jammed up north of there on Empire and Butler Market. But we need to make this residential area safe. And if that means lowering the speed limit, then that's what we need to do. And if that means enforcing the speed limit in that area, then I would support that as well, because I've seen it. I've seen cars go through there so fast it makes your head spin. And I know the people who live there are concerned, and their kids are driving their bikes up and down the streets and the sidewalks, and they're worried. So, you know, I think those are some things we can do in the immediate without doing a whole lot of changes to the ordinance or anything that would allow the citizens there to feel a little safer. You know, just maybe some targeted enforcement of the speed limit so we can get people to slow down. But ultimately, they need to finish the road. That's the end of the story. They need to finish the road.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, Carol, go for it.
Okay, we have one more question about transportation, and this will be to position 2. I'm going to ask August to answer first, and then Anthony. If the transportation plan bond fails on November 3rd, how would you address the pressing transportation infrastructure needs of the city? And I'd like to probably insert another little piece not printed here. Do you support the transportation bond?
Um, I mean, I'm August. I do support the transportation bond for Bend. It allows more connectivity through the city, and as the viewers have seen, everyone kind of has a general agreement for safety. If the bond does fail this coming November, what I have to say to the voters is that you just have to look out for your safety. That's kind of what the U.S. is all about, is that as a person, you are responsible for yourself and your actions and what you do and what you say. So if the bond fails, then please be safe, look out around your surroundings, and if you're a parent, educate your kids a bit more on street safety. Now, as a person, as myself, and I know that all Americans can do this, if the bond does fail, there are ways that people can look into, I guess, supporting the ability to create safer neighborhoods. I would imagine that would be through your neighborhood association. I would say go to them, talk to them, and see if you can strike up a fund to provide for a safer neighborhood for yourself. If it does fail, I would love to look into options that the city council has to not increase any sort of taxing on the city, but to have a way that we can find small bits of places within the city that are crucial to transportation, but that won't be a big spending point on the city's part, but that we can move towards creating a safer Bend. Thank you.
Thanks, August. And Anthony, I'm going to ask you whether you support the bond and what you would do if it fails.
Thank you, Carol. Yes, I support the bond. I have served, I've campaigned for the bond. I support it 100%. It's necessary for it to pass. If it does fail, we will need to follow up with a public safety bond. I am not willing to allow public safety to not be the #1 priority when it comes to transportation. That's why I support Vision Zero, preventing traffic deaths and serious injuries on Bend streets. We need to make sure that every kid can get to school safely. The district has identified, the school district has identified dozens of hotspots in our city where it's not safe for a kid to get to and from school, which requires more use of cars, more buses. The district has identified the intersection at Wells Acres and Purcell, which serves Ensworth. If we improve that, it would completely eliminate, this is from the school district, the need for busing at Ensworth. It would allow the district to use buses for other schools. I think we need to make Bend the most walkable, busable, bike rideable, wheelchair friendly, and drivable city in Oregon. It's possible. If we have connected routes where you can get anywhere in this city that you choose using the appropriate mode of transportation, it will make this city not only the greatest place to walk, not only the greatest place to use a wheelchair, it'll make it the greatest place to drive. And if we have a connected, safe transportation system, it'll reduce cut-through traffic. It'll allow people to go out in front of their houses, say hello to their neighbors, allow their children to use the out of doors. This is part of having an exceptional city, and that's the one litmus test that I would apply in making transportation system decisions. Will this make Bend an exceptional place to live in a neighborhood, to raise kids, to grow a family, to grow a business? So I support the transportation bond, and I hope it passes.
Thank you, Anthony. And Steve can ask the next question.
Thanks, Carol. We're changing topics. At this point, we're going to the livability concerns. And this question is one of those, again, that comes from our participants here this evening, from some of the audience members, and is for position 3. So we'll start again. Let's see, we'll do Megan, you'll be first, and then we'll go to Chris. So the question is, regarding the pandemic, some have questioned the city's handling of the COVID response, balancing residents' needs with tourism demands. Bars open, but schools closed, or how marginalized communities have been disproportionately impacted. How would you propose the city address the pandemic to improve conditions for all Bend residents?
All right, thank you for this question. Having just received an email a couple of hours ago stating that my third grader will not be returning to school until the 26th at a minimum, this topic is really on my mind right now. I'll start with the past. And I have to say, one of the things that really did upset me with the way that the city handled the pandemic was the fact that the city took a vacation during the height of our, the real strong cases of our pandemic in July. That was not the time to take a vacation. This is something that has not happened, in our country since 1918. This is something that has not affected Bend so dramatically since maybe the housing crisis in 2008. This is a public health crisis. And there was a month between, between city council meetings. So secondly, I have a problem with the fact that we were encouraging people to stay away. We were discouraging people from, being in Airbnbs and in hotels, but we weren't enforcing it. We were telling people to wear a mask, but we weren't enforcing it. And so going forward, I think that we need a more, a stronger public health stance on COVID. It is the only way that our kids are going to go back to school. It is the only way that we are going to get through this. And as we start the process of figuring out how we're going to get out of this, and as we start the process of rebuilding economically and as a community, we need to be thinking about the people that are disproportionately affected by this virus. And that is our Black and brown neighbors, that are our essential workers, and our seniors.
Okay, thanks. And Chris, how about the same question to you?
Yeah. So over the past 6 months, we've all been learning. I myself have never been through a pandemic. We've had an incredible learning curve here in the city, our residents, our businesses, just the community as a whole. And yes, could we have done more? I believe we could. Did we know what we do know today back then? We didn't. We know a lot more today, so we should be able to take more proactive measures as we have been in the past. I think that what we need to continue doing as a city is what I and the mayor and the city manager has done with neighborhood associations, leading the charge and organizing and promoting, is continuing to bring advocacy to the neighbors, to the associations, to help them understand what it is we're going through as a city and what we can do as neighborhood associations to help be good stewards and lead by example and remind those individuals, your neighbors, those that you may not recognize in your neighborhood, helping them understand that we want to remain a safe city, and that we ask that you follow the protocols that have been issued not only by the city, but by the state, which is masking up, washing hands, and keeping socially distanced. I think we need to continue educating and advocating on that behalf. I think that we're also at a point where we have a very heavy lift in this area. I would like to see more shared governance amongst all taxing districts to have consistent messaging and education from the library to the schools to the Bend parks and to the city, that we're all on the same page, issuing the same message to minimize the state of confusion. I think we're at a point where we're not sure exactly at times what we're doing or what the right regulation is that's going on or certain policy that's in place. And I think being unified with that one message will definitely help us going forward. And yes, it is unfortunate that we're at a state right now where schools will not be open till next month, or hopefully they'll be open next month. It's quite terrible right now.
Thank you, Chris. Carol?
Thank you. We're going to stay in the livability area. And this question will be for position 1, starting with Justin, and then we'll have Melanie answer. The City Council's biennial plan for 2019-21 included increase illegal fireworks enforcement activities in the public safety section, strategy 2. How would you propose to address that goal given the continued use of illegal fireworks in Bend and the fact that Bend is in a wildfire zone?
No, I think this is a really important question for our city. Anytime, 4th of July rolls around, heck, even New Year's, we hear lots of illegal style fireworks that are legal in the city of Bend, illegal in the state of Oregon. It is because we live in a very fire prone area. Uh, as far as that goal goes, absolutely, I supported that and pushed for that and more enforcement. We already have pretty strict rules on what can and can't be used as a firework in the city of Bend, and we just need to be enforcing that. Chief Porter a couple of years ago came into town on a 4th of July and was appalled by the amount of illegal fireworks going on. Now, 4th of July is also the largest call for service day that Bend Fire Bend PD actually has. And so we have to be cognizant of those other those resources being used wisely and prioritizing calls. But we absolutely need to further our fireworks enforcement. There were groups of firefighters and Bend PD officers paired together actually going around the city. I know Mountain View Neighborhood Association was key in providing lists of regular houses that regularly have fireworks displays that are illegal on an annual basis. A lot of the other neighborhood associations stepped in with a lot of that data that really helped Bend PD kind of focus on specific areas. But we need to expand that and make that more robust, and also bring on potentially more staffing on 4th of July in order to meet the regular calls for service, plus also working on the illegal fireworks enforcement.
Thank you, Justin. And Melanie, go ahead.
Thanks. So I think this is obviously a really important issue to be talking about, especially this year when we've experienced some of the worst wildfires in Oregon's history. And we were so lucky that they weren't here and threatening Bend, but we still suffered the consequences because of how we've been managing our forests in Oregon and how the climate is changing and causing these fires to be more intense and more frequent. So this is obviously a very key issue. What I want to take from this question is talking about increasing enforcement activities. So I think this gets to an issue that has also come to the forefront here in 2020, which is about how are we spending our law enforcement resources as a city? What are our police being asked to do? I think that they do a great job on this as much as they can, but we are asking our police to do so much. I think that we might be able to increase enforcement activities or have more staffing on this or have more officers available if we take some of those other jobs away from our police and give them to people that are experts. And I think specifically of responding to mental health calls in our city. I think that's something that our city police have already started working on under the leadership of Chief Porter. I'd like to take that further and see how else we can involve mental health resources and mental health workers in responding to these calls, and not be sending officers with guns. One, it prevents tragedy. Two, it's better outcomes for the folks that are experiencing a crisis. And three, it can help reallocate resources that we have towards the enforcement activities that we want to emphasize, like enforcing our illegal fireworks code. So I think that that's one approach that I might look at is how are we allocating our resources of police and where can we take something off their plate so they can spend more time on this pretty crucial issue, especially on those nights and weeks when we know that it's very important to have a presence out there enforcing the law.
Thank you, Melanie. And Steve will tell you the next question for livability.
Okay, this is Beth, and I think Steve has lost connectivity. So this question is going to go to position number 4. And we'll start with Anand and then Rita. And the question is, how would you make City Council more responsive to citizen concerns?
I myself, having lived here for years, have never personally seen a city councilman out and about on my day-to-day tasks. As a city councilman, I'm still going to work here. I'm still going to live here. I'm still going to be like I am right now at my son's jiu-jitsu class, and just be out in the community. Have not just sitting in Bend Chamber in their nice, comfy little office, but to be out in the community, involved with community activities, involved with the MVNA, involved with all the other neighborhood associations, try to make as many of those meetings as we can. I understand we all live, work, and have families and lives outside of that, but to just be more actively involved in our community, not just in the city council. That would be my goal if I was elected, and that's what I think needs to happen. How can we be the voice for our community if we're not out actively involved in our community? Thanks.
Okay, and Rita, the same question. How would you make city council more responsive to citizen concerns?
I think that there are many different parts to this question. I think we have talked a lot, or I've talked a lot about accessibility to Bend City Council meetings, and so making sure those are accessible to humans who don't have internet access, humans who may not be able to take 4+ hours out of their evening to sit and have a conversation with a city councilor or make a comment during public comment. I think that city council can, when COVID is over, go ahead and move the city council meetings to different parts of town and making it accessible to humans that want to attend in person but maybe can't because it's at City Hall. Conversations around office hours and having city councilors accessible at many different times of the day, and variety within that. You know, humans are at work or humans go to school and they're unable to talk to the city councilors. I think it's also incredibly important that we see what happens with public comment. So if you are able to have a conversation, to make public comment at a city council meeting, where is that information going? Are we making sure that information is recorded, and what are the action plans connected to those public comments? I think it's also incredibly important through the neighborhood associations, just conversations between the planning commission and between the neighborhood associations. When neighborhood associations are having conversations about concerns of development within their neighborhoods, where is that information going? Is city council really hearing them, and where kind of their values and support lies? So thank you.
Okay, I got back in. Go ahead.
Thank you. I think this is probably one of the best questions that citizens have to ask themselves when they are electing somebody to serve on their city council. Because ultimately the city council has to be able to listen to and hear everybody in the community so that they can make a decision that reflects the goal of the communities. And one of the things I think needs to happen more often, and especially in a city like Bend, I think could happen more often, is more frequent town hall meetings that involve the entire city council. Not just a session where we're having, you know, people coming down to make public comments, but where the counselors sit up, put some duct tape over their mouth for a little bit and just sit back and listen to the community for an hour or 2 hours. I think that needs to happen on a fairly frequent basis and should be happening at least every other month, if not monthly. Obviously, we're still dealing with the pandemic, so that might make it a little bit more harder, but we still have mediums like this in which we can have some sort of dialogue with the community. But that's the most important thing. Counselors have to have dialogue with the community. And, you know, really, how are you going to make sure your counselors are more responsive to citizens? Well, you have to elect counselors that are going to be responsive to the citizens. You have to elect people who are empathetic with other people. You have to elect people who have already worked in the past with other people of all sorts of different backgrounds to solve difficult problems. You have to elect people who understand the heartbeat of the town. You have to elect people who listen and care about what other people have to say. And I think it's important to elect people who have not only done all those things, have not only talked the talk about how to do those things, but have also walked the walk in how to do those things. People who have done things in the past and achieved things. It's important to look at that and elect people who are going to have a track record of success And when you do that, if you elect people who have those attributes, you will have politicians that are responsive to the citizens, in my belief. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, Carol, take it away.
Thank you. The next question, our final one for livability, is for position 2. Anthony first and then August. The question is, what role do you believe the city should play in increasing affordable childcare options in Bend? And what ideas do you have for increasing childcare options?
Thanks, Carol. Great question. This is top of mind for me. I have 3 daughters we've raised in Bend, my wife and I. She's a pediatrician, and for 2 working people, I can tell you that it's difficult to find childcare, and that was true before the pandemic. Focusing on what we are entering into after the pandemic, I expect that it will be even more difficult. We've lost childcare providers, and one thing I have made a proposal for is to use more empty commercial real estate. We know that commercial real estate is going to suffer. We know that commercial real estate is going to be more empty. And let's use the silver lining of this public health and financial disaster to use more space where childcare providers who are simply looking for an affordable place to do their business can cooperate with somebody who owns a large piece of commercial real estate, has lost a lessor. So I think that's one thing we can do. I think the chamber is thinking creatively and working aggressively to make sure that we have affordable housing so that businesses can operate, folks can get to work. But I don't think that we should put all of the weight on the shoulders of the chamber. I think this is a multi-governmental approach. We need to involve the Parks District, which is the single largest provider of childcare in our city, and take a more is more approach, because this is, with housing, one of the things that is going to limit our ability to bounce back from the coronavirus.
Thank you, Anthony. And August, can you please answer the same question?
I sure can. This definitely isn't my platform, but I am in support of childcare. I understand being I guess, the middle child of 8 kids in a family, that childcare has definitely been a huge thing as a part of my life. Within Bend, what I would say the biggest thing or the biggest problem that Bend has right as of now due to COVID would be that our schools unfortunately aren't opened up for kids to go back to school and have that connection basis with their teachers, with their I guess their friends and the classmates all around them. I would definitely, as a counselor, push as hard as I can to get kids back in school. I understand what it is to be like as a student who has lost the option to go back to school, especially during my senior year. For younger kids, I would love to go out into the community just as basically a person and talk to community members about what we can do to give parents the ability to have a daycare for young kids at their own house. I've been on Facebook talking to quite a bit of people. I've seen and commented on posts about moms who no longer have the option to go to work because their kids are also at home, and now they have to take care of their kids because the schools are closed. So I think that there are many options, and that one of them is to have more of a community-driven focus to have, I guess, small daycares up and around, and that the city can step in and try to push for schools and help out people who are just trying to be good friends to their friends' kids. Thank you.
Thanks, August. And I'll let Steve go on with the next category of affordable housing.
Okay, so here we are with affordable housing, and this is for position 3. And we'll start then in position 3 this time with Chris and go to Megan. So the question is, where do you stand on the building of micro units in existing neighborhoods where property is zoned for single family housing?
Yeah, thank you. One, I am in favor of micro units. But with that said, it's important to note too that we have a public hearing on this issue October 7th. Looking forward to having additional public input on this. I think it's really important because this is a new housing type that we're learning about and looking at other cities that have modeled this successfully, and that we plan to take those learnings, and I'm sure that we'll be tweaking it and seeing how well they'll work here in our city. I think micro units is a necessary type of housing. We're in a situation now where we have a really seriously housing gap. We have individuals that live in the city of Bend who can't afford to actually live and work here, which is unfortunate. And I believe micro units will provide that opportunity for them, that gap to be able to live here. Right now the micro units, if I recall correctly, is that we've updated the zoning. Where only medium and high density is going to be restricted to this, and no longer allowed in low density housing, and looks like residential districts. It will be an area of focus for the Bend Central District, and there's also a lot size requirement for each of the zones. So there's many areas that we've looked at as City Council to ensure that we're not going to disrupt the neighborhoods, that we're going to make sure that we implement the micro units in a way that's favorable to the city of Bend, and most importantly, providing a solution for those that want to live, work, and play here and raise a family.
Thank you, Chris. Megan, the same question.
A friend of mine said this, and I thought it was really brilliant. She said that, cities are dynamic and that they're constantly evolving. And I think micro units are a really good example of that, because we need types of housing for all types of people from all income levels in our community. And micro units are a really good form of alternate housing. I do support them being in residential areas for the simple fact that the vast majority of land in Bend is zoned as residential, and if we want these to be successful, we need them to be in residential areas. Rita and I talk about this a lot, and it's the concept of that we need to sort of reimagine the neighborhood. It is possible to put duplexes, triplexes, micro units. It's possible to put these in our neighborhoods and still retain the character of our neighborhoods. So it's not something that as a community we should be afraid of or uncomfortable with, because we can make them be a part of our neighborhoods. I also want to address something, and that's that micro units have the potential to really help out our houseless population or our near houseless population in our city. A lot of our houseless neighbors have jobs, but they can't afford rent, much less a mortgage. And so these micro units are a way for this population to have a place to call home. So, along with all of the other aspects that we need to look at with houselessness, which is a permanent warming shelter, more affordable housing, more alternate housing like micro units, but also tiny homes, and more supportive housing for our houseless neighbors so that they have a low barrier start of housing, and also a supportive structure with healthcare and supportive services.
Thank you, Megan. Yeah, Carol, you're up.
Okay, Steve. Still in affordable housing issue. Position 1 can answer this question. We'll start with Melanie and then Justin. A question often arises concerning where affordable housing goes in Bend. Would you favor measures to ensure there is equitable distribution of affordable housing in all neighborhoods? Do you think that all new developments in Bend should be required to include affordable housing units? Go ahead, Melanie.
Thanks, Carol. So first I want to say that I think Bend has a really great affordable housing committee that does a great job in supporting the projects that we've seen over the years sort of coming up around town to provide this sort of housing for people that are making 80% or less of the area median income. When we're talking about equitable distribution, I actually have seen a map of where we've been building these projects, and it's actually fairly distributed about town. I think that's also, like I said, a product of having a great committee, but also that these projects are going to go where they can feasibly be built. I don't think any affordable housing developer is looking to only build on one side of town or the other. I also think some of these affordable housing projects have been done so well, especially on the west side, you can't even tell that they're an affordable housing project. So there may be more near your neighborhood than people realize. As far as requiring new developments to have affordable housing units, this type of inclusionary policy for development has been tried in other places. I'm not sure that it's totally correct for Bend. What can tend to happen is that the developer is required to include X amount of affordable units, and to make up the difference, they charge even more for the other units. So we actually have more expensive housing going in next to our affordable housing, and that's not helping this other population of the middle income earners to find accessible housing. So I favor more of trying to build all different types of housing and allow affordable housing projects to be clumped together to make them more feasible to build and more easily supported by our committee. And on the other side of things, we have our city, per House Bill 2001, putting in code to allow all sorts of other different housing that can fill that middle need, things like duplexes, condos, townhomes, quadplexes, and other units that will help people that are in that 80 to 120% area median income find a home as well.
Thank you. Justin, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we really do, as part of our status with the Housing and Urban Development part of the federal government, in order to receive community development block grants, we actually have to do an impediments analysis. And so we do part of that impediments analysis that we do look and see where our capital A subsidized affordable housing is going. And it is pretty well distributed. There is a little bit of a gap in the Northwest part, but really that was the last analysis was done prior to Azimuth 315 going into Northwest Crossing. Now we also have Habitat for Humanity has a townhouse project off of Juniper, just north of Newport Avenue. So when you start seeing some of those projects come online, it'll actually have a pretty good equal representation of our subsidized affordable housing. Now we also need housing that's affordable by design, and so we need to make sure that the city's getting out of the way of developers, whether that's system development charges or creating land that's more, we need to have more land because the cost of land is driving the price of housing up a lot. You can't have developable land going for the prices it's going for. And we also actually see a disconnect in the land markets because there's a lot of speculation in going on in land. And so you're actually seeing a driving up of the land prices that's really has no connection really to what that land should be costing once you take into account the cost for actually putting in infrastructure and then building those houses. And so having doing another urban growth boundary expansion like is required in our current UGB, and then also doing a urban area reserve is going to be very important so we can actually stop some of that land speculation. So that's another way to address and get more housing that's affordable by design.
Thank you, Justin. And Steve can ask the next question.
Well, thank you, Carol. I think that we have a question showing up here in a couple of moments. Here it is. So this question will be for position 4. And we will start this time with Michael and go to Rita and then Bubba. So question 4, or this question is, what are your plans for supporting mental health in Central Oregon? This is a broad question, and I encourage you to think about the intersections of mental health and police, underserved and indigenous communities, K-12 schools, trauma-based counseling, the Central Oregon workforce, and any other issues that intersect with mental health.
Hey, thank you for the question. It's so small on my screen. I'm trying to actually read it too because it was a lengthy question. But obviously, mental health is an important issue in our community. I studied the criminal justice system, and that's what my bachelor of science degree is in. I've worked within the criminal justice system for 20 years. And anybody who's worked within the criminal justice system know that there is a significant amount of mental health issues that can come into play in that. And so the questionnaire is right that there is an intersection between mental health. Frankly, there's an intersection between mental health, the criminal justice system, the homeless population, and just in general, people, the community should be comfortable in coming out and dealing with mental health issues. Often it's become a stigma. So it isn't just the populations I mentioned. Mental health issues are something that everybody at every economic level and from every racial and religious background have to deal with. So it's clearly an important issue in our community. The city council and the city, obviously we're going to have to work with our partners with regard to this at the county and the state level. And frankly, the city, in my opinion, one of the things they should consider doing, and this would go in hand with the homelessness issue, is wherever we decide we can get a permanent warming and cooling shelter, we need to have services like mental health services nearby, whether that's a Veterans Administration mental health services or whether that's county mental health services. They need to go hand in hand. And so as a city councilor, I would support those type of cooperative workings where we can try to tackle two issues at once. But mental health is a big issue that the city's going to have to work with our partners so that we can deal with the issue appropriately.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Rita, the same question to you.
Thank you. So I am a mental health therapist here in town, and I work with many different types of individuals. And so my initial thought around mental health is making sure that people have access to services, and having access to services means that they're able to have health care and have a lot of conversations with the county. And so as we look at Deschutes County, behavioral health is one of their biggest departments. And so making sure that people are able to access the mobile crisis services and so on and so on. We have multiple Deschutes County behavioral health buildings here in Bend. And so making sure that people know where those are and making sure that they're able to access those services in many different ways. Mental health within the schools, knowing many school counselors and knowing many mental health counselors who work within the schools, there's always need for additional support within the schools and to support all of our students of every age. And so continuing to have those conversations with the school counselors, continuing to have those conversations within the curriculum. Many of the students also are able to learn about mindfulness and yoga within the school system, and that helps support them, not only their mental health, but also makes them more successful when they're learning within the schools and really beginning to understand who they are as people. Trauma-based counseling is something that I talk about all day, every day. And also I work with many mental health therapists that specialize in trauma-informed care. So that's incredibly important. And it's incredibly important that we support our labor force and the workers so that they're able to be safe and so that they have healthier mental health. It's also incredibly important that Bend PD doesn't have to take all of the burden of mental health services. They can really talk to the mobile crisis team and many of the behavioral health individuals through the county who can really support, and people are able to get those services. So thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Yeah. And Bubba, how about you?
I think the biggest thing with mental health is funding. It's always a topic of conversation, and it always has been, and especially now that we're dealing with the pandemic and COVID. And I know that mental health has been a challenge for a lot of the people that I know that have lost businesses or lost their sources of income or dealt with whatever ramification the pandemic has thrown their way. And we carve out millions of dollars to get tourists to come to our community every year. There isn't any reason why some of that funding couldn't be funneled towards our departments of human services and towards a permanent warming shelter, and in conjunction mental health amenities that they have readily available access to at all times, so that they can get those needs addressed. And it's hand in hand with the homeless community, as well as every part of our community right now. There are so many of us suffering because of the pandemic that were never personally affected by COVID itself. And so I think finding funding for those things would be top priority for any future city councilman and anybody that loves this city. Anybody that's been here for any time can see that the homeless camps are growing, and that situation needs to be addressed, and affordable housing, mental health, everything else, and not put it on the shoulders of our police departments, because look how often that turns into a bad result. So I would say that funding would be the first step, and then looking and talking to people like Rita who deal with mental health on a daily basis to see how that they could best reach out, how to make that available and get it going in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Bubba. All right then, Carol.
Okay, thanks, Steve. This will be our last question of the evening, and it will go to position 2. I will start with August, and then Anthony can answer it. Do you think that Bend employers should help to address the high cost of housing through higher wages, investment in infrastructure, etc.? If so, what steps would you encourage them to take? Again, August, go ahead.
It's a hard question to answer because as a city councilor, the city has responsibilities that work with infrastructure and police and our fire department. But when talking about local businesses and wages in particular, it really is up to the local business and what they pay to employ their workers. It would be a good discussion to see if people could make a bit more money to pay for the expensive housing we have here in town. But you really have to understand that businesses can only work if they're making a profit. And in order to make a profit, you can't overpay your employers, your workers. So what I do believe that the city can do to allow people to, I guess, make more money or find more affordable, pay for their housing, is to introduce more jobs. That's something that the city can do and has power over. The city can take land use and put that towards commercial use, to put either local businesses or something that would be a higher paying job, maybe career businesses. That's I don't think that the city has power over walking into a business and telling the owner to, hey, you have to raise wages for the people you work with. But it would be a good conversation to see if Bend can provide better jobs for people to live or afford to live in Bend. Thank you.
Thank you, August. And final answer from Anthony. And this was, again, one of our questions from an attendee tonight.
Thank you, Carol. I would say that small businesses are really hurting right now. Like I said earlier, was fortunate enough to lead the effort to open downtown streets and streets throughout Bend to facilitate physical distancing, to keep workers safe, to keep business owners safe, to keep patrons safe. That's the kind of approach the city needs to take right now. We need to be a dynamic and a responsive partner to small businesses. We need to make this a great place to live and to grow a business. I support, from a housing perspective, a pragmatic approach. Let's make sure people can afford to live here by refocusing our Affordable Housing Advisory Committee on families who are working here, not just traditional affordable housing, but actually that next area median income level of home buyer and home renter. Let's make sure that if you are working in Bend, you can afford to live here. Let's have a rational SDC, system development charge system, that requires everybody to pay their fair share, pay for the share of the burden you are imposing on the system. And so I think if we make this a great place to get around, a great place to own a house, a great place to rent a house, that our incredibly brilliant business community is going to be able to pay higher wages. We're going to be able to build more green businesses, more sustainable businesses, pay people more, and hopefully close that gap when it comes to being able for working families to be able to afford to rent and buy in Bend.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it back to Beth, who will move on with the next portion.
Okay, thank you, Carol. We are now going to do candidate closing statements, 1 minute each. And while we're doing that, we're going to be posting a poll for attendees that we would like you to respond to. So we will, and also we're going to be posting contact information for each of the candidates. We'll start with position 4, and Anand, we'll start with you, then Rita, then Michael.
First, I want to say thank you very much for holding this and giving me the opportunity to speak. I appreciate that very much. And it's Bubba for Bend, position 4. I look forward to working with all of you guys in the coming days, and I hope you vote for me if you think I'm the right guy. I'm just a regular dude working, living, and loving Bend. All right, thank you very much and have a great night.
Okay, Rita?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for everyone that's been watching, and thank you all for your support. Thank you for holding this forum and allowing us to have a conversation. It was nice to have all of the candidates here tonight and hear a bunch of different perspectives. As a renter here in Bend, I think the conversation around neighborhood associations is incredibly important. I'm really beginning to learn what neighborhood associations can do and learning how to support one another. As a queer person of color, I will bring a unique perspective to Bend's leadership, and I am very passionate for all of the people that live here. Representation matters. Please check out my website at ritaforbend.org.
Thank you, Rita. Michael?
Thank you. Thank you for the Mountain View Neighborhood Association for hosting this event, for all the candidates for giving us all the time and their great answers and all the input so we as a community can listen to all these important discussions. You know, I believe Bend is great, and I believe it will be great 10 years from now if we have the right leadership at the city council, if we do the right things, if we use common sense as we approach this exponential growth that we're about to deal with. And to do that, we're going to have to be smart. We're clearly going to have to make it cheaper to build a house. That means we're going to have to bring system development charges down. That means we're going to have to figure out a way to get the property developed faster so we can recoup the revenues we lost from the reduced system development charges. So we got to have a plan in place to deal with this growth. And we're going to have to deal with the economic fallout of the pandemic. Those are our important issues that we're going to have to deal with. And I believe that we can deal with these, and Bend will be great 10 years from now. And I thank you again for hosting this forum.
Thanks, Michael. We'll go to position number 3. Chris first and then Megan.
Great. Thank you, Beth. I want to say, one, I was remiss. I didn't mention the PACs that support me. And I want to just say that Central Oregon Association of Realtors, the Chamber PAC, the Central Oregon Small Business PAC, and then also endorsed by City Councilor Bruce Abernathy and retired Bend Police Chief Jim Porter. One, this has just been an incredible opportunity to be here with the Mountain View Neighborhood Association, for their members to participate. Thank you for providing this medium. You know, as counselor over the last 2 years, it has been an incredible opportunity to serve the city of Bend. I've learned so much and met so many people, and I'm thankful to the residents who have given the opportunity to help shape the future of their neighborhoods. And I look forward to continue doing the work as counselor as I have, being engaged and active with the community members, McKay Park, OBNA, and Southwest Bend neighborhood, and many more. So thank you again for this opportunity.
Thanks, Chris. Megan?
I want to thank the MVNA for doing this tonight. I joined my NA board because I wanted to be more connected to my neighborhood, and I so appreciate other people who are involved in their neighborhood associations. I've stated before that I believe that commitment to community is everything, and NAs are that definition. You know, a lot of times elections are about false choices, either or, and I think that they should be about both and. You know, we can still retain what's amazing about Bend and make it a place for everyone. And we can invest in our small businesses and protect our essential workers. We can build affordable housing and make sure our builders are in the black. And we can make our neighborhoods diverse economically and racially and keep their unique character. You know, it's a really unique time and it requires unique leadership. And I believe that my diverse background working in public administration, for nonprofits, as a small business owner, and as a community organizer, it means that I am up for this tough task ahead. I'm proud to be endorsed by 2 sitting members of the City Council, the OLCB, the Working Families Party, labor unions, and school board members, our former mayor, and more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Megan. We'll go to position 2, August, and then Anthony.
All right. I just want to thank everyone for showing up and listening to what Anthony and I have to say. I hope that people have come to a decision or are looking into what the differences between Anthony and my character are. I have to say that I support rugged individualism and that I'm a voice for all the young people out there in Bend. I want to see Bend grow as I grow with it, whether that be through its physical growth or I guess its mental growth through the community that we have here in Bend. I just have to say that I love Bend and that I don't see this as a competitive competition where I have to hate my opponent or anything like that. I consider Anthony and I good friends, and I hope that in the future, him and I will maybe do something together. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, August. Anthony?
Thank you to the Neighborhood Association, Mountain View, for having us. Thank you to all of the work that you do on behalf of our entire city and your neighborhood. The City Council needs to be a good steward as our city grows. We need to plan for growth. I will work to lead transportation, to make sure that if you work in Bend, you can afford to live here, and ensure that the city's a dynamic partner to small businesses and workers as we bounce back from the coronavirus. You know, my first week as an attorney, I had no gray hair, and I was sitting in the office of an elected official at a federally recognized Indian tribe, and she told me, "Don't ever tell me what I can't do." And that's the kind of public servant I want to be. I think we can have a safe, connected transportation system. I think we can make sure if you work in Bend, you can live here. I think we can do something about homelessness, which went up 12% before the coronavirus. I think we can ensure that the promise of this city is available to every single person in it, no matter your race, no matter where you were born, no matter which side of town you live on. Again, my name is Anthony Broadman. I would be honored to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. We'll go to position 1, Justin, and then Melanie.
Thank you again to the Mountain View Neighbor Association for hosting. 4 years ago, I promised to tackle Bend's big problems, like crumbling streets and a lack of affordable housing, without raising taxes on people already struggling to make ends meet. Since I entered office, Bend has repaired a record number of lane miles of streets without resorting to a regressive gas tax, made key improvements to our transportation system like Empire and Murphy corridors, and implemented a wide variety of affordable housing policies. Bend's biggest challenge today is the economic distress caused to residents and businesses by COVID-19. I support efforts to reduce the burden the city places on those most affected by the economic slowdown. I'm proud to be endorsed by a wide variety of different people from different political backgrounds, including current Mayor Pro Tem Bruce Abernathy and former mayors Orrin Teeter and Casey Rhodes. Thank you for your time this evening, and I ask for your vote this November. And I also want to give a quick shout out to my son. Happy birthday, Levin, and I'll be down shortly for some ice cream cake.
Thank you, Justin. Melanie?
Thanks, Beth, and thanks everybody for attending this great forum. I think this neighborhood association in particular knows that the next 4 years are going to be critical for Bend's development into a sustainable city and a sustainable community. We have to plan for economic recovery, what our future growth will look like, and how we can make Bend affordable and welcoming to everyone. I believe I'm the best choice to join our city council in position 1 and lead in this moment. I supported the council's decision to move quickly to help our downtown businesses by opening up street space for them to operate safely. I think we can't wait to invest in our transportation system. And I want us to have a robust Human Rights and Equity Commission and to listen and act when our communities of color tell us what they need. We need to move forward together on the challenges we're facing as a city in order to reach Bend's full potential as a livable, thriving city surrounded by natural beauty. I will use my background as an attorney working for the public to make a positive difference for the city of Bend. I hope I've earned your vote today. I'm proud to be endorsed by former Mayor Jim Clinton, former Mayor Pro Tem Mark Capel, and many other community leaders. Find more about me and support my campaign at melaniekeebler.com. Thanks.
Thank you, Melanie. And I want to thank all of our candidates. You guys have given us incredible answers, and you've made our jobs as voters more interesting and more difficult. But we do thank you so much for being here. We have recorded this session, and we will post it both on our NBNA Facebook page and on YouTube. So if you're interested in going back and looking at things, please do that. I want to thank all the attendees and your questions that you put into the Q&A. If they didn't get answered, we will try to get answers for you. Thank you, everyone, and good night. Go enjoy your evenings.
Yeah,
Thank you,
enjoy
Beth.
your evening. Thanks again
Thank
for
you.
being with us all.